It is round 4, and now we're going to look at some of the great number 4s who wore that jumper and also the great round 4 moments. I'm going to start with the greatest of all, in my opinion. That's Tony Lockett. Obviously, his record will never be broken, you'd think, with the all-time goals, but just nice to go back and look at some of Plugger's highlights. You know, one of the all-time greats, or the best, I was saying. He could do everything. Hard on the lead. He could take a spec if he needed to. Never missed. He was a 7 or 8 out of 10 with his goal kicking, and he could do this, non-preferred on his left foot. And look at these numbers. So he kicked 7 or more 70 times and 10 or more 22 times. So he didn't play a lot of games either, Plugger. It was 270, 280. So his consistency was phenomenal. For 2 clubs, he was an absolute champion, and it was magnificent to see him last week at St Kilda's celebration as well.
Great vision, Llordo. Probably my favourite ever teammate is Gavin Wanganeen. What a star he was. Could play any position on the ground. Won a Brownlow as almost a teenager. In the back pocket, as you're seeing there, and playing alongside of you, Llordo, and some of this stuff was extraordinary. The thing that is underrated about Gavin is his courage. Like, he just had no fear for what was coming his way. Would go back with the flight of the ball. Look, like stuff like this. Look who's coming. Sumich is coming. He doesn't care. And he could do it on the ground as well. So just an absolute freak, and one of the most humble players you'll meet, and single-handedly dragged us over the line in this prelim final to get us to a grand final. He didn't touch the ball in the first half, and Mark Williams gave him a spray at half-time. First spray I've ever seen Gavin receive. Comes out and kicks 2 of the best goals you've seen in the prelim final.
And doesn't age.
No, he looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah. He looks exactly the same as he did when he played.
Current player, number 4, Dustin Martin. So it could have been different for Dustin. It could have been different for Richmond. So the board challenge at the end of 2016, there was talks that Dustin Martin was going to go to the Giants. He toured the Giants. They were going to get rid of Damien Hardwick, but he stayed. Hardwick stayed. The board stayed. And then he put on 3 of the best seasons you'll see in AFL football. Norm Smith medalist, time and time again, Brownlow medalist, and just big moments. So you want a player in big moments to do what he did, and particularly this grand final. When they were under the pump, they were down at just before half-time. The first goal he kicked, and then this was the culmination of that. He kicked the last one. This was the icing on the cake. The 4 before that, they were outstanding. So Dustin Martin, he is a superstar.
Hey, Damo, can I just ask you, so he'll be a legend in the Hall of Fame with the 3 Norm Smiths.
Yeah.
Like, where do you reckon he'll sit, like, in terms, will he be top 10 of greatest of all time, you think? Like, where do you view him when his career's over?
I think you're right, Lord. I think the elevation to him will be instant as a legend, and because of those 3 grand final performances that he had. So he hasn't got as many All-Australians as other players, but he did that 2017 season. You know, it's a good number, Llordo, when my favourite number 4, Ross Glendinning, doesn't get a look in on your list, but Royce Hart does, and he was an extraordinarily talented player who, wasn't he, TJ? When he burst onto the scene, there was no bigger name in the game, and the beautiful way with which he played and helped take Richmond into the stratosphere when it came to focus on them, and did it in such a fair way.
And then Tasmania, in Hobart, where he lives, watches us religiously every Sunday morning. Yeah,
just a beautiful player. And you've also got Stephen Kernahan as a number 4 too, TJ. And the way he just burst onto the scene in his very first season as a mature age recruit for the Blues, and instantly being made captain, and then taking them to premierships, and did it throughout his whole career.
What about that? First season at Carlton, became captain at Carlton.
Yeah, and got him to a grand final, and then got them to a grand final the next season, where he was receiving the cup in that second season of 87.
Now we'll look at some of the big moments, and I'll never forget this. It was my first year at Essendon. I was playing at Victoria Park in a curtain raiser, and this was the first Anzac Day for these 2 clubs. And you know, no one knew what to expect, but I was one of those guys trying to get in the stadium after to watch the AFL game. It was 20,000, 30,000 people outside trying to get in, and then the game just made it all happen. When it's a draw, you know, Sav Rocker heroics, James Hird heroics. It was just goal for goal. You know, Sav Rocker ends up kicking 9, a heap after half-time, but the scoreline, it was 111 apiece, and this was Alan Richardson and Mickey Simons. The shock, no one knew what to do, but this game was born, and it's probably the most phenomenal home and away game I ever went to.
One of the most iconic moments in a round 4 match was at Victoria Park, and this was between St Kilda and Collingwood. Nicky Winmar had been putting up with racial slurs for most of the game, and that led to this iconic moment captured by Wayne Loveday when he lifted up his jumper to proudly show the colour of his skin. Now, it's hard to believe that this is almost 30 years ago to the day, And yet 30 years on, we're still having conversations about racism in football. And for all the work, there it is there, for all the work that Nicky Winmar has done over the years, as I said, the message still hasn't got through, and we hope at some point it certainly does. Because of the Nicky Winmars of this world and every other Indigenous player who have graced football fields.
A couple of big hits in round 4. Phil Carman with the boundary umpire Carberry. So just here, just a small little headbutt. 21 weeks, I think, from memory, Damo.
Yeah.
And we probably didn't see the best of Phil Carman. I used to ask my dad who was the best player he'd seen back in the day. He always used to say Phil Carman, but then there's also this one. So Barry Hall, just Staker wasn't watching, and then he was out before he hit the ground, and then Baz was like, what? So a couple of unsavoury moments there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about Carman too. Played for 4 footy clubs in the end and was still playing well for North Melbourne in the 4th of those clubs, but you're probably right. We never quite saw the absolute peak of his powers consistently, apart from that one season where he...
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, he nearly won a Brownlow off a limited amount of games.
Yeah, with like half the season.
Yeah, half the
He broke his
season
leg
and then missed
still
that
came
final
right up.
series, or final.
And Billy loves this one. His record at the Gabba, where he kicked 11 in round 4. But watch these highlights of just how good Billy was. So I think Richard Champion he gets a hold of in a few of these clips, Billy. But this one's on the left foot from Billy. But some of the marks, and we saw Jack Lukosius' goal last week. How good is that from Billy? It was a beautiful kick for goal, Billy. And then some of his courageous marks, going back with the flight of the footy. So Billy was just an outstanding player. I know he plays the joker at times, but this is an amazing record to kick 11 like this.
And do we have to say it? Like the joke he always tries to pull when he
Yeah,
goes to the Gabba and they're trying to sell the record to him. And no, son, I've already got the record. he always says that.
Hey, so this number 4 was so big that even Bazusto, mark of the year, goal of the year, so couldn't fit everything in today.
We've got one more, haven't we?
Yes, you have.
Yes, and we spoke earlier, you volcanoed Damien Hardwick for his post-match media conference last night. This is one, now, we've been to media conferences before where coaches have just put everyone on notice, but this particular one from Bomber Thompson was chilling in the sense that no one would dare challenge him. Have a listen to this.
I thought there was far worse players last week than Brent Otten's playing the game. And for some silly reason, you people want to assassinate him, and it's just rubbish. You people.
Be happy, Mark, that you pumped them.
All of you. All of you. It's just rubbish. Leave him alone.
Whoa, geez, that gives me sort of like goosebumps just watching that again. Yeah, great stuff. Next week?
Number 5s, and as I said, superstars everywhere with that number as well.